If you watch the Republican convention, you might remember an unhinged man on the pedestal screaming, lock her up," and the crowd of nut jobs picking up the chant, and him responding, "Damn right, exactly right, there's nothing wrong with that." Well, that was General Michael Flynn, the former spook for the Defense Department, the head of their, what's that official name? Defense Intelligence?
Defense Intelligence Agency, DIA.
Yeah, exactly. And later on, he said about Hillary Clinton that she should withdraw from the race, saying, "If I did a tenth of what she did, I'll be in jail today." Well, it's not clear whether he did 1/10 or 100th or whatever of the crimes of that bitch, crooked Hillary Clinton, but he did get the can. He was the shortest serving national security advisor in the history of that position.
Impressive.
Yeah, and he was also has the distinction of being fired both by the Democratic and a Republican president. Under Obama, he got canned for mismanaging and for chaos, and a lot of people were bitching and complaining who worked under him and said that uh, there was mismanagement and that there were Flynn facts where he just made up shit and they
sounds like an impressive.
Well, I mean, so it was a good resume for the Trump administration, but
sure.
Yeah, unfortunately, the thing that he got in trouble for is speaking with the Russian ambassador on the phone and discussing the sanctions that Obama has imposed for Russia interfering in the American elections. And the cause actually wasn't that specifically, but the fact that he lied. He lied to Mike Pence, the vice president, if you didn't know. I mean, he is kind of obscure. And the White House chief of staff, Reince Priebus, and the press secretary, Sean, the unhinged Spicer. And he did lie to them about about speaking with the Ruskies, but during this whole time, the big man himself, the great leader Donald Trump, for 3 weeks or however long.
Great leader.
Yeah.
Great leader.
He knew this was going on. He knew that, or that it happened. I'm sorry that Flynn did have those conversations, but I guess the other guys didn't. And when it turned out that he lied to them, he was eventually relieved of his position.
See, so how did this information come out? Who released this? What?
Well, there were multiple leaks from the intelligence agency, what the people now refer to as the deep state, and because Donald Trump shat on them for a period of months, poo-pooing the idea that Russians were behind the hacks, saying that they failed during the Iraq War, that they, how can you trust these people? Well, this kind of came back to hit him on the balls with this, because clearly they were monitoring those conversations with Russians, and they practically almost released the transcript. They didn't literally, but they gave the bullet points to New York Times, Washington Post, and whoever was interested. And yeah, so it looks like the revenge from the spooks toward one of their own who they probably disliked for his relations with Russia. So it was a one stone, two birds.
Yeah, right. He actually spoke at a conference in Moscow, didn't he, or at some sort of dinner or something?
Exactly, it was a dinner for the most objective media organization, Russia Today, and he flew down and he sat next to the other great leader, Vladimir Putin. So he sat right next to him. There was a picture.
Wow.
Yeah. And the one thing I'd like to briefly mention is that if there was a Russian general, a former FSB general, who without the sanction of the Kremlin would go to America and sit at some reception next to Barack Obama or whoever, once he got back to the motherland, he'd, have he had a one-way trip on the treason train to Siberia.
To the gulags. You go to Gulag now. Yeah, see, I feel complicated about this situation, because on one hand, obviously fuck Trump and fuck all the people that are working for him. on the other hand, I don't trust spooks. I know I said this before. I don't trust spooks. I don't care whose spooks they are. I don't care if there are spooks, British spooks, Russian spooks, Brazilian spooks. I don't care whose spooks they are. I don't trust them. So it seems to me too that that they're kind of working to undermine the administration is not motivated so much by any kind of desire to protect democracy and to protect the republic. I mean, spooks usually don't care about that kind of thing. It seems that they're trying to undermine him because he's trying to undermine this belligerent stance against the Russian Federation. And trying to improve relations with the Russian Federation is literally the only good thing about Trump's presidency. I mean, that's literally it. Like, I mean, everything else about him sucks, 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 sucks. This is maybe the one good thing about him. And the idea that they might be trying to undermine that specifically and not trying to say undermine his, I don't know, his travel ban, his, cozying up to these alt-right leaders like Bannon, none of that. It's this that they have a problem with, which it makes me very suspicious,
I tend to agree with you. I mean, I do hate Trump, and I want to go Leninist on his ass, as far as by all the means necessary, but
Yeah, right.
not the means of the intelligence agencies waging a covert war against elected leader of a country. I mean, unless he's actually is turning into a dictator, which is not on the horizon, unless maybe another retailer yanks Ivanka Trump
Or if the
product line.
or
Yeah,
if the
then he might
terrorists hit,
snap.
or if the terrorists hit Bowling Green again.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly. Bowling Green, Kentucky.
Yeah, right. It's man. The other thing too is like, it is interesting. They would also note the hypocrisy that like when the leaks came out about Clinton, her campaign, and her nefarious doings, it was always who cares where the leaks came from? It's like look at their content. And now it's okay. Well, don't look at the content. We need to figure out where these leaks came from. So there's a bit of hypocrisy on that front.
Yeah.
So it's for me. I'm kind of looking at this situation like here's two factions I don't like. There's the Trump faction, which I really don't like, and then there's the the intelligence community, which is another faction I really don't like. And I'm just thinking like let them fight it out, let them play their game. The best thing that might come out of this is it might kind of like sap the efforts of his administration and force him to spend all this time and effort and energy working to like prevent this factional infighting within his own administration and stop him from going through with really any of his proposed policies, or at least make it more difficult for him to do that. Kind of like an attrition warfare kind of thing, just wear him down, wear him down, wear him down. And on the other hand, the intelligence agencies will also.
I think the reservoir of idiocy
Yeah.
there is too vast to
Right.
wear it down.
Then on the other hand, this will also be wearing down the intelligence community and their ability to do wiretapping and drone strikes and other kind of things that seriously compromise the safety of a republic.
Yeah.
So there's some benefits to this. There's some downsides to this. I kind of want them both to lose. Maybe they will both lose. Maybe there'll be a little benefit in there for that.
Yeah. Well, there is one quick issue is that people have been saying that his behavior, Flynn, is not just unethical and shady in terms of lying about his conversations, but they could also be illegal. There is a thing called the Logan Act that prevents civilians from engaging in diplomacy with foreign powers.
Mhm.
And the thing about that law is that it dates back to like the 19th century, or it's never been enforced.
Yeah.
There was only one case when some guy wanted to separate the Western states from America, and he was talking with France or trying to reach out to France or something like that. But I mean, obviously, it went to the toilet, and the prosecution was started but never finished. So it just seems, it seems like that law would be hard to uphold because
Yeah.
what constitutes diplomacy?
Yeah,
You
that's
literally, if you're not in the government, you have no power to affect
true.
anything.
Yeah, right.
So you're just,
I can't call up Putin and be like, hey,
Yeah.
let's negotiate. I don't have the power to do that. I mean, I
I'm-
can say, I'm going to move the troops here, there, this, but I can't move them. I mean,
yeah.
maybe I could call up some, soldiers and be like, hey, you can try this, but I mean, that's not going to get anywhere.
Yeah, and plus many other administrations have engaged in it. Effectively, Obama traveled to Germany during his election campaign in 2008 to counter the idea that he's inexperienced in foreign
Yeah.
policy. And he gave a speech before a crowd. He spoke with politicians. I mean, how is that not diplomacy? In
That's
this case,
true.
I mean, you can say that it's a stupid idea to relieve Russia with sanctions.
Yeah.
But speaking with an ambassador, and especially considering that this happened after Trump's surprise victory.
Yeah.
So this was in December. So by that time, he was technically a civilian, but he was also a representative. But the
Of an
more
incoming administration.
yeah, but the more menacing proposition is that Trump's political advisors like Roger Stone and Paul Manafort were communicating with Russia during the election, and when Russia was, accused of hacking into the Democratic Party, and that's some more serious accusations. And if something comes of it, we'll let you know.